I trudged up the apartment stairs, clutching a greasy paper bag from the gas station, my head pounding, after using my last emergency savings to cover rent. Again. Sarah had forgotten to pay it despite the 3 reminders I sent. I hoped she would understand why dinner was not fancy tonight. 6 years of marriage and I still believed things could change. As I reached for the door handle, I sensed the argument brewing before it even started. Before I continue this story, drop a comment letting me know where you are watching from, and hit that like button if you have ever felt underappreciated by someone you love. I grew up in a modest neighborhood outside Pittsburgh. My parents worked hard their whole lives, my dad at the steel factory and mom as a school secretary. They taught me the value of a dollar and the importance of saving for emergencies. I put myself through college working nights at a 24-hour diner, graduating with a business degree and only manageable student loans. I met Sarah at my roommate Jake's birthday party during my final semester. She was vibrant, confident, with an infectious laugh that filled the room. Her dark hair cascaded past her shoulders, and her eyes sparkled when she talked about her dreams of traveling the world and someday starting her own business. Unlike the other girls at the party taking selfies, Sarah was telling stories that had everyone captivated. "You are staring," Jake whispered, elbowing me in the ribs. "Who is she?" I asked, unable to look away. "Sarah Winters, marketing major." "Way out of your league, Clay," he laughed. I gathered my courage and approached her with 2 drinks. Our conversation flowed effortlessly for hours. We discovered shared interests in foreign films and hiking. By the end of the night, I had her number and a first date planned for the weekend. Our early relationship was magical. Sarah was spontaneous, pulling me out of my practical routine. She would surprise me with picnics in the park or midnight drives to the beach. I loved how she pushed me outside my comfort zone while I provided the stability she never had growing up with her chaotic family. After dating for 2 years, I proposed on a hiking trip to the waterfall where we had our 3rd date. The diamond was smaller than she hinted at wanting, but her eyes filled with tears as she said yes. I promised to give her the life she deserved, a vow I took seriously. We planned our wedding on a tight budget. I wanted to start our marriage without debt, but Sarah had different ideas. She pushed for a destination wedding in the Bahamas, a designer dress, and a guest list of over 200 people. "We can put it on credit cards," she suggested during our planning. "Everyone does that." "I would rather start our marriage without that hanging over us," I explained, showing her our budget spreadsheet. "We can have a beautiful wedding without going into debt." After tears and arguments, we compromised on a local venue with 75 guests. Still, the final bill stretched my savings thin. Sarah seemed disappointed on our wedding day despite my best efforts to make everything perfect. We moved into a modest 2-bedroom apartment in a decent neighborhood. I had landed a job at a marketing firm with a stable income and health benefits. Sarah worked as an administrative assistant at a law firm, but complained constantly about her demanding boss and tedious work. "You should see what Jessica posts on Instagram," she said one evening, showing me photos of her college friend lounging by infinity pools in exotic locations. Her husband works in finance. They just bought a house in the suburbs with a pool. "We will get there," I promised. "It just takes time to build that kind of security." I did not realize then that our definitions of security were completely different. For me, it meant savings, modest living, and planning for the future. For Sarah, it meant having whatever she wanted, whenever she wanted it, regardless of cost. The first 2 years of marriage had their challenges, but I believed we were building something meaningful. Looking back, I was already making excuses for Sarah's behavior, ignoring the warning signs that flashed brighter each month. The first major red flag appeared during our 3rd year of marriage. I came home from work to find Sarah sitting on the couch with a glass of wine, looking pleased with herself. "I quit my job today," she announced casually. "I nearly dropped the groceries I was carrying." "You. What? Why did you not talk to me first?" "I do not need your permission," she said, her voice hardening. "I am not happy there. I need to find my passion." "Finding your passion is great, but we have bills to pay," I said, trying to stay calm. "What is the plan?" Sarah rolled her eyes. "The plan is for me to take some time to figure things out. You make enough for now. Do you not want me to be happy?" That question became her weapon of choice. Whenever I expressed concern about finances, she would twist it to make me feel like I was controlling or did not care about her happiness. Despite my anxiety about our single income status, I supported her decision. I picked up overtime at work and cut back on my own expenses to keep us afloat while Sarah found herself. Months passed with her bouncing between interests, taking expensive art classes one week and photography workshops the next. Then the credit card bills started arriving with unexplained charges. Expensive clothing spa days, lunches at high-end restaurants, none of which she mentioned to me. When I questioned these expenses, Sarah became defensive. I deserve nice things. I cannot sit at home all day staring at walls. But we agreed on a budget, I reminded her. These charges are putting us in debt. You are so boring with your budgets and spreadsheets, she scoffed. Life is meant to be enjoyed. If you got a better job, it would not even be an issue. That comment stung, but I swallowed my pride. Maybe she was right. Maybe I needed to earn more to give her the lifestyle she wanted. I started staying later at work, taking on additional projects, to impress my boss, hoping for a raise or promotion. One evening, I came home exhausted after a 14-hour day to find our electricity shut off. The apartment was dark, except for the glow of Sarah's phone as she scrolled through social media. "What happened to the lights?" I asked, setting down my laptop bag. She barely looked up. "Oh, I guess I forgot to pay the bill this month. Can you handle it?" My stomach dropped. "Sarah, the bill was due 2 weeks ago. I reminded you 3 times. She shrugged. "I have been busy. Just pay it with your emergency fund." That is what it is for right. That was the first time I tapped into my emergency savings for a bill Sarah was supposed to handle. I had been building that fund since college, adding to it religiously with each paycheck. It was meant for genuine emergencies, not negligence. After paying to get the electricity restored, Sarah promised to be more responsible. Things improved briefly. She created a calendar reminder for bills and even applied for a few jobs. But within months, we were back to the same pattern. Another forgotten bill. Another withdrawal from my emergency fund. Friends started noticing the imbalance in our relationship. My college roommate Jake visited for dinner and pulled me aside afterward. "Clay, are you okay, man? Sarah seems to be calling all the shots while you pay all the bills." "It is just temporary," I explained. "She is still figuring out her career path." "It has been almost a year," he said carefully. "And she just mentioned buying a new car." I defended Sarah to Jake and others who raised concerns, but privately my doubts were growing. I was losing weight, having trouble sleeping, and developing persistent headaches. The stress of being our sole provider while watching my savings dwindle was taking a physical toll. When Sarah suggested a weekend getaway to reconnect, I reluctantly agreed, putting the hotel and meals on my already strained credit card. The trip was pleasant on the surface, but underneath my anxiety simmered. Each time Sarah ordered the most expensive item on the menu or added another charge to the room, I calculated the hours of overtime required to pay for it. I received a modest promotion at work, which briefly gave me hope for financial stability. My salary increased by 15%, enough to start rebuilding our finances, if we were careful. I shared the news with Sarah over a home-cooked dinner. "That is great, babe," she said, hugging me. "Now we can finally get that sectional couch for the living room." And I saw the perfect dining set to replace this old table. Just like that, my raise was spent before it even hit our account. When I suggested we focus on paying down debt first, Sarah accused me of being controlling and stormed out. She returned hours later with shopping bags, her revenge for being denied immediate gratification. Our first serious argument about money came when I discovered she had applied for a credit card in my name without telling me. The statement showed $5,000 in charges at designer stores and high-end restaurants with names I did not recognize. "How could you do this?" I asked, my hands shaking with the statement. "You are so stingy with money," she countered. "I needed things and you always say no." "This is fraud, Sarah. You forged my signature." Her strategy changed instantly. Her eyes filled with tears and her voice became small. "I just wanted to feel normal, not count every penny. Do you know how embarrassing it is when my friends invite me to lunch, and I have to check with my husband first, like a child asking for allowance?" Her tears worked as they always did. I paid the credit card bill, cutting deeply into what remained of my emergency fund. Sarah promised it would never happen again, and I chose to believe her, because the alternative was admitting my marriage was built on lies. The week that changed everything began with an ominous email from our landlord. Rent was 5 days late, and he was threatening eviction proceedings. I immediately checked our joint account, where Sarah was supposed to transfer her portion of the rent money. The account was nearly empty. My heart raced as I called Sarah. She did not pick up. I texted emergency. Landlord says rent not paid. Money missing from account. Call me as soon as possible. 3 hours later, she responded casually. Oops, must have forgotten. Can you handle it this month? Love you. After work, I drove to our apartment in a daze. I needed to see our financial situation clearly. In the back of the closet behind my winter clothes, I found shopping bags with items still bearing tags. Designer shoes, leather purses, clothing from boutiques I could never afford to shop at. The total value easily exceeded our monthly rent. My phone rang. It was our landlord, angry and threatening. Mr. Thompson, this is the third time in 6 months. One more late payment, and I am starting eviction proceedings. I need the money tomorrow. I understand. I will bring a cashier's check first thing in the morning, I promised, my voice hollow. The next day I called in sick to work. I could not face my colleagues while my life was imploding. At the bank, I withdrew the last $1,500 from my emergency fund, the savings I had been building since college. The account that once held over $23,000 now showed a balance of zero. The teller gave me a sympathetic look. Closing out the account today, Mr. Thompson. I nodded, unable to explain that this money, my safety net, was going to cover my wife's financial negligence. Again. After delivering the check to our landlord and enduring his lecture about responsibility, I drove around aimlessly. My head pounded with a migraine that had been building for days. Without thinking, I pulled into a gas station, realizing I had not eaten all day. With $15 left in my wallet, I bought the cheapest meal I could find. 2 pre-wrapped sandwiches, a bag of chips, and 2 bottled waters. The cashier counted my change with a look that might have been pity. I texted Sarah, paid rent. Emergency fund completely gone. We need to talk tonight. Her reply came quickly. Thanks, babe. You are the best. Having lunch with Amber and Tiffany. See you tonight. I sat in my car staring at my phone. I pulled up our banking app and checked our credit card. There it was, a pending charge for $120 at an upscale restaurant downtown, time stamped 30 minutes ago. My wife was enjoying an expensive lunch while I bought gas station sandwiches with my last $15. As I drove home, I rehearsed what I would say. I needed to be firm, but not accusatory. We needed a budget, separate accounts, perhaps maybe financial counseling. I still believed we could fix this if Sarah understood the severity of the situation. When I entered our apartment that evening, I was hit by the scent of expensive perfume. Sarah was sprawled on the couch, scrolling through her phone. She barely looked up as I set down the gas station bag. What is for dinner? She asked, not taking her eyes off her screen. Sandwiches from the gas station, I said, my voice tight. It is all I could afford after paying the rent you forgot about. She finally looked up, wrinkling her nose at the bag. You are kidding, right? That is not dinner. I took a deep breath. Sarah, we need to talk about our finances. I had to empty my emergency fund completely today. She rolled her eyes and stood up, snatching the bag from the counter. She peered inside with disgust. Wow. You really know how to make poverty taste worse, she said, dropping the entire bag into the trash can. Try again tomorrow, idiot. She walked back to the couch and resumed scrolling through her phone as if she had not just thrown away our only food and insulted me in the same breath. As if she had not just trashed the last $15 I had to my name. In that moment, something crystallized in my mind with perfect clarity. I was not a husband to Sarah. I was just a wallet with a pulse. A resource to be drained until empty, then mocked for not providing more. The realization should have hurt, but instead, it brought a strange calm. The constant anxiety that had been my companion for years suddenly lifted, replaced by absolute certainty about what I needed to do. I stood motionless in our kitchen, staring at the trash can containing the discarded food. In my mind, I replayed years of similar incidents like a movie montage. Sarah forgetting bills while buying luxury items. Sarah mocking my concerns about our finances. Sarah crying to manipulate me when caught in lies. Sarah, always taking, never giving. I remembered my father's words from years ago, when I got my first job. Never let anyone make you feel small for working hard and being responsible. Your character is worth more than any dollar amount. Something broke inside me, but it felt like freedom rather than damage. I walked calmly to our bedroom and pulled my suitcase from the closet. Without saying a word, I began packing, methodically selecting only essentials and items with personal value. From the living room, I heard Sarah's disinterested voice. "What are you doing in there?" I did not respond, continuing to pack with deliberate movements. I gathered my financial documents from the desk, my grandfather's watch from the dresser, and family photos from the nightstand. I left behind anything Sarah had given me. When I emerged with my suitcase and backpack, Sarah's amusement turned to confusion. "Where do you think you are going?" she asked, finally setting down her phone. "I am leaving," I said simply, my voice steady. "This marriage is over." She laughed incredulously. "Because I did not want gas station sandwiches." "Do not be so dramatic." "No, because I finally see clearly what this relationship is. You use me financially and emotionally, give nothing in return. You have drained my savings, ruined my credit, and made me feel worthless for not earning enough to fund your lifestyle." Her expression shifted rapidly from dismissal to anger. "You cannot just leave. What about the rent, the bills? You are responsible for those." Of course, her first thought was about money. Not our relationship, not my feelings, just who would pay the bills. "I paid the rent for this month," I replied. "After that, you will need to figure it out. I suggest you start by selling some of those designer bags in the closet." She switched tactics, her eyes filling with rehearsed tears. "Clay, please. I am sorry about dinner. I have been stressed lately. We can work this out." In the past, those tears would have melted my resolve. Now they only confirmed my decision. I continued gathering my things as she cycled through her arsenal of manipulation tactics, from crying to accusations, from threats to promises of change. "I will call your mother and tell her what a terrible husband you are," she threatened. "Feel free. I think she will understand when I show her our bank statements." "You cannot survive without me," she said next, her tone vicious. "You are boring and pathetic. No one else will ever want you. I would rather be alone than with someone who sees me as an ATM machine." I responded, surprised by my own calmness. I loaded my car methodically, while Sarah continued her emotional barrage. Our neighbors peeked through curtains at the unfolding scene. I felt oddly detached, as if watching someone else's life. When everything was packed, I took one last look at the apartment we had shared. Sarah stood in the doorway, her expression now showing genuine panic as she realized I was actually leaving. "If you walk out that door, do not ever think about coming back," she said, her final attempt at control. "That is exactly what I am counting on," I replied. Driving away was both terrifying and exhilarating. My hands shook on the steering wheel, but my mind was clearer than it had been in years. I checked into a budget motel with the last of my cash and sat on the edge of the bed, letting the enormity of my decision wash over me. For the first time in years, I slept without anxiety, without the weight of trying to meet impossible expectations. I woke to 47 missed calls and dozens of texts from Sarah, ranging from rage to desperation. But I felt only relief. The first month after leaving was about basic survival. My college friend Marcus offered his spare room until I could get back on my feet. "I always thought she was taking advantage of you," he admitted, as he helped me unload my meager belongings. I made an appointment with a financial advisor to assess the damage. The picture was grim but not hopeless. I opened new bank accounts at a different bank where Sarah had no access. I froze the joint credit cards and began the process of separating our finances completely. Sarah's messages evolved from angry accusations to desperate pleas. "I need money for groceries," one text read. "You cannot just abandon your responsibilities." I replied with the contact information for the financial advisor and suggested she sell some of her luxury purchases. My first therapy session was eye-opening. "What you are describing sounds like financial abuse," the therapist explained. "It is more common than people realize, and it can happen to anyone, regardless of gender." I began to understand how I had enabled Sarah's behavior, how my desire to be a good husband had become a vulnerability she exploited. Each session helped me recognize patterns and establish healthier boundaries. At work, freed from constant worry about Sarah's spending, my performance improved dramatically. My boss noticed the change. "Whatever is going on with you, Clay, keep it up. Your presentation last week impressed the executive team." I started rediscovering interests I had abandoned during my marriage. I joined a hiking group, spent evenings reading books I had put aside, and even took a cooking class to learn how to prepare simple, healthy meals for myself. 3 months after leaving, I signed a lease on my own apartment. It was small but clean, in a safe neighborhood with reasonable rent that I could comfortably afford. The day I moved in, I bought a houseplant as a symbol of new growth. Unlike my marriage, I was committed to keeping it alive and thriving. Sarah's attempts to reconcile grew increasingly desperate as she faced the financial reality of life without my income. She showed up at my workplace, once causing a scene in the lobby until security escorted her out. She sent manipulative messages to my family and friends, painting herself as the victim of abandonment. 6 months after our separation, I had rebuilt a modest emergency fund, started paying down the debt Sarah had accumulated, and received a promotion at work. My health improved as the chronic stress lifted. I lost the persistent headache that had been my companion for years, regained the weight I had lost, and started exercising regularly. Then came the morning Sarah called, sobbing so hard I could barely understand her words. "Clay, please, I need you. I am being evicted. I have nowhere to go. I made a mistake. I miss you so much." My old self would have rushed to rescue her. My new self recognized the manipulation. "I am sorry you are having difficulties," I said calmly. "I can refer you to some housing resources." "You do not understand," she cried. "I never meant to hurt you. I was just scared about money all the time. My parents always fought about it, and I never learned how to handle it properly." "Why did you really call Sarah?" I asked directly. After a pause, she admitted, "I need money for the rent. Just this once. I promise I will pay you back." "No," I said simply. "I cannot help you financially anymore. You just want me to suffer," she accused, her tone instantly shifting from pleading to bitter. "Actually, I want you to take responsibility for your choices, just like I am doing with mine." As we finalized our divorce, I met Jennifer, a coworker from the accounting department. Unlike my relationship with Sarah, my friendship with Jennifer developed slowly, based on genuine connection rather than intensity. She was financially independent, thoughtful with money, and respected my boundaries without taking it personally. 1 year after that fateful night with the gas station dinner, I sat across from Sarah in our final divorce mediation. She looked smaller, somehow less intimidating than the woman who had once held such power over me. When she made a last attempt to claim a portion of my retirement account, I calmly presented documentation of her financial misconduct. "Mr. Thompson has been more than generous in this settlement, considering the circumstances," my attorney stated. "He is assuming responsibility for 40% of the joint debt, despite evidence it was incurred primarily by Mrs. Thompson, without his knowledge or consent." Sarah signed the papers with a shaking hand, finally facing the consequences of her actions. As we left the attorney's office, she attempted one final manipulation, tears welling in her eyes as she touched my arm. "We could still try again. I have changed, Clay. I miss what we had." I gently removed her hand. "What we had was not healthy, Sarah. I wish you well, but my answer is no." Walking away from her for the final time, I felt no anger, only a quiet certainty that I had made the right choice. My emergency fund was slowly rebuilding dollar by dollar. More importantly, my sense of self-worth was growing stronger every day. Have you ever had to walk away from something that was slowly destroying you even when it was difficult? Share your story in the comments below. If this resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe for more real-life experiences. Remember, sometimes the hardest decisions lead to the greatest healing. Thank you for listening, and remember that your worth is never determined by what you can provide to others.